Today we are going to make spaghetti bolognese. And we're going to start off with our onion. So just going to peel the onion, and remember when you're in the kitchen, if you've got the children with you, think about some tasks that you could get the children to do. And making sure that you've given yourself plenty of time as well, because it does take a bit of time when you've got the children helping. You don't want to be in a rush cooking dinner. Just down to that white bit, and then what we're going to do is just chop the ends off, like that. And we've got one of these special choppers that we're going to be using. So we love using this kind of equipment in the kitchen. Anything that makes it easier on our preparation time, but also safe for the children as well. So I'm going to cut my onion into quarters, and then I'm actually going to chop it again, just so that I can get it to fit into this little machine. And the other thing we're going to put in this machine today is we're going to put in our garlic cloves. So you can crush the garlic cloves separately, but this little machine actually chops them up really well with the onions. So pop in your garlic cloves. I've loaded up my chopping machine. I'm going to close the lid. Hopefully I haven't loaded it up too much. There we go. And then it's as simple as I can hold it down and ask the children to pull. You might have a good head start, because the first pull is always a little bit harder, and then it gets easier and easier. Like that. And there's my onion, all chopped up beautifully for me. And not a tear has been shed. If you don't have a chopping machine, then certainly chopping up the onion crossways and then lengthways and then do it a nice dice is the alternative. Then I'm going to grate the vegetables. So what we're going to do is we're going to grate each of those, and again, another great activity to get the children involved. And so that's done. And at the same time, I'm going to do my zucchini. So there's my carrot done. So again, I'm just going to chop the end of the zucchini, keep the other end on there, because that becomes a nice little handle as we're grating our zucchini. So, grating the zucchini. Right. And there's my zucchini grated. We're going to drizzle some extra virgin olive oil into our frying pan. About a good tablespoon of the olive oil in the frying pan, and we're going to heat that up first of all, so that we can then saute the onions. All right, so mine's nice and hot, so it's a little stir through. So there's my onions cooking. All right, so once we've got our onion softened, then we're ready to put our meat in. And at this stage, if you are using the vegetarian alternative, whether it's the lentils or the corn, then you can put that in at this stage as well. So I've got here 500 grams of beef mince. Alright, so I'm going to pop the whole 500 grams of mince into the frying pan, and then it's a matter of just trying to flatten it out, break it all apart, and get that mince nicely browned through. So keep stirring it, flicking it over. So my mince is beautifully browned, and now it's time to add the other ingredients. So I'm going to put all of my carrot and zucchini straight in. So it's a really good way to just add some vegetables to the dish and make it a little bit more nourishing. Great way to enjoy our veggies. So I've just got some diced tomato, nothing added to it. So a tin of tomatoes, a whole lot goes in. Like that. Alright, so we'll stir that through. Lovely. And then we're going to put in some tomato paste. I'm just going to we're going to use that tomato paste. So the recipe asks for 2 tablespoons, so that's roughly what you would get in one of these sachets. And mix that through. And if you really like your tomatoes, and a real tomatoey bolognese sauce, you could add some more tomato paste, or you could even add an extra can of tin tomatoes. So now we're going to turn that right down, and what I'm going to do, it's a really good idea to put a lid on at this stage, so we can let it simmer, and that's our bolognese. So it's not ready to go yet because we want it to cook for a little while. Probably about 20 minutes or so. Open the lid, give it a stir, and see how it's going. So whilst this is simmering, then we can do our spaghetti. When we're making our spaghetti, we want to get a reasonable sized big-ish saucepan, fill that with water, and put it on the boil. We want to make sure that water is boiling before we put the spaghetti in the pot. Another thing I like to do when I'm making spaghetti is I put a little bit of olive oil in the water. And what that does is it helps to stop the spaghetti from sticking together when you strain it out. So I put my spaghetti in the saucepan, like that. And I just let it sit there for a bit. I don't worry too much about breaking it or anything like that. Just let it sit there for a bit and it will quickly soften and then fall in on itself. Now once you have put your spaghetti in the saucepan, you've got to keep the lid off. If you put the lid on, what can happen is all the starches can start to overcook and it will boil over and become a great big mess. Nice light simmer, it doesn't have to be a crazy boil. And then we're happy with our spaghetti cooking. And we'll just go back and check how the mince is coming along. Okay, I want to make sure that's on a little bit of a light simmer. Not too much of a simmer because it'll burn the bottom. Just a light simmer. So there's my spaghetti sauce. Looking great. So some other dishes that I like to use my bolognese mince for is I could turn into a lasagna the next day. I could, quite often we turn it into a Mexican version, or Mexican dish. So we'll add, so that as the mince gets smaller in quantity, you can bulk it up by adding some kidney beans. So some canned kidney beans into that mince. And then I'll put some spices in there, some Mexican spices. So you can get like a Mexican spice mix, or you can just create your own Mexican spice using cumin, paprika, a little bit of chili to your taste. And then from there, we'll use that mix to make burritos. We might have it with tacos. Another dish I might do with the cooked mince is I'll turn it into shepherd's pie. So pretty much the mince as it is, I would then put into a dish, cook up some potatoes and mash those potatoes, pop that over the mince, bit of grated cheese on top of that in the oven, delicious. So that's really, you can keep that on the stove top for a couple of hours. And the longer it cooks, the more delicious it's going to be. Some other vegetables you could add to your spaghetti bolognese, again this is where you can make it your own, is you could put in some mushrooms as well. So finally chop up some mushrooms and pop those in at around the onion stage, just after you put the onions in. You could also put in some capsicum, so some green or red capsicum or whatever you have on hand. If you want to put some herbs in your bolognese mix, I'll usually save it towards the end, because if you're using fresh herbs, then those herbs will cook really cook up and you'll lose a lot of their flavour. So herbs like basil go particularly well with, or oregano go particularly well with our bolognese mixture. And so right at the edge, before you serve, you can just sprinkle those herbs in. Check the spaghetti now. I think it might be ready. Thank you guys. So, be careful not to burn yourself. Just want to grab one piece of spaghetti, let it cool down, and we can hand it to someone to do the taste test. We say if it's what we call al dente, so it's still a little bit of a bite to the spaghetti, but not really mushy in your mouth. That's telling me that's spaghetti is ready. So we've got our strainer in the sink. Those ones that stand on their own are great, so you don't have to hold it and whisper it in your hands. And then we're just going to strain that spaghetti into strainer. Spaghetti. And because I've put the olive oil in there, it's not going to stick together. So sometimes when you make cook up spaghetti and you just let it sit in the strainer for a while, you come back and it's all like one big blob. The olive oil has helped to stop that from happening. Okay, so when we're serving our spaghetti bolognese, again, variations, let the children serve themselves. Perhaps, or if you're going to serve it for them, a couple of ways we could do it. I like to make it pretty, do a little circly thing there, a little bit of spaghetti on the plate, and then I'm just going to get a little bit of my sauce mixture, and I might put that to the side of the plate. Again, the children can then decide how they're going to mix it up. It's kind of fun for them to mix it up themselves or to try each element separately. Then, what we're going to add is a little bit of cheese as well. I love to have some cheese with our spaghetti bolognese. So we might, again, sprinkle the cheese on top of the meat, or we might just put the cheese to the side for the children to decide how they're going to mix that in together and let them have a little bit of ownership as to how they're going to eat their spaghetti bolognese. And then we might add some herbs as well to pop on top. A nice little green leaf of basil looks very pretty. And there's our dish. Another way we could serve our spaghetti is in a bowl. Sometimes just having a bowl is much easier than on a plate. And, you know, we'll have our spaghetti. And in this instance, if children like to mix it all up together, it's a bit easier when it's in a bowl. So a little spaghetti and some meats, and then they can just mix it up themselves and allow them to add their own cheese. So they can then sprinkle the cheese on top themselves, and if they want to mix that through and let it melt, that's delicious. So a really lovely, nourishing meal for children to have. It's got your perfect blend of protein, carbohydrate, and vegetables. So there you have it.